Yo, it's
Yes,
been
sir.
mad cold, right? Hold on, let me turn these speakers off. All right, there we go. Yo, so it's been mad cold, and if you can't notice, I'm super congested. It's been like 2 weeks. I've been mad congested. The weather over here has been crazy, and like it's just, man, I hate being congested. I feel like I sound like Kermit the Frog or like really high voice. You know what I mean? Like you get in your own head and think you sound crazy.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you. I'm actually bouncing back from a little cold myself, and then it's been like the weather here's been kind of crazy too, but it's not been cold the whole time. It's just been super up and super down. So like you know how that go.
Yeah, it's all over the place, man. That that seasonal affective disorder, man. The sad, yo. It's in full gear, man. Them short days, cold outside, you don't want to do nothing. Like it's terrible. The best thing I did was ask for that reflex bag for Christmas, man.
Oh
Cause I
yeah.
got that thing in. I'll just pull it out in the room, start doing my thing. I don't
Hmm.
gotta go, outside. Don't gotta do nothing crazy. It don't have to be, good weather or anything like that. It's perfect.
That's
I've
dope.
been killing that thing, man. That and
That-
some push-ups.
yeah. That's dope, man. I was telling somebody I think a couple days ago because of my VR boxing workout, bro. I think I want to take up a boxing class, man. Like that cardio is like super dope. Like you know what I'm saying? It's fun. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
man. Running and jogging and whatever. For me, the repetition in it gets boring. You know what I'm saying? Like I know I'm getting a workout in, but it just gets boring. But like boxing, bro, that's it's something different, bro. It's just it's
yeah.
different, bro.
Boxing is fire, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm Puerto Rican and it's just in my blood, but I always been big boxing fan. Like I never really got into it as far as like being a boxer because
Hmm.
like I couldn't even have imagined like where to go like to find a boxing gym or even how to get a ride to do anything like that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But it's something that if it was on the table, I think I might have tried it as a kid.
Yeah. That's dope.
So it's always been something that was super intriguing. I like what I love about boxing is like the mix of mental and physical. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's like you got to even like think about what kind of workouts you're gonna do to strengthen what part of your game that
Mhm.
needs that sharpening. And like when you do something too much in one direction, it takes away from another direction. So you got to figure out like what's like that balance for you to be comfortable at. Like you got to know which weight you box best at. You got to know
Mhm.
like what style you box at each weight or against each person. Like it's so dope how much mental goes into it, how much thinking goes into it. And even just like even in the UFC or any kind of like combat sport where like you get the corner between rounds and you just hear them all talking, and it's like all these guys that have like usually like let's say 20 plus years of wisdom each. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? And they're just saying all these things that they're seeing in the fight that like sometimes you're like, dang, like I didn't even see that. You know what I mean? Like they're
Mhm.
watching this in real time and just catching everything.
Yeah. That's why it's dope seeing like legendary trainers and like when you see get those clips of like legendary corner moments where it's like dude went to the corner, you thought the fight was over and his trainer said one thing that just sent them ready to go. And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like those moments are so dope, bro. So
Oh
dope.
yeah, yeah. Facts, facts. Yo,
Yeah.
man, that that is crazy. That actually made me think of back in the day in Wentworth, we used to always randomly like pull out the boxing gloves. Like somebody would get some boxing gloves and then they'll just like announce it at the bus. Like, yo, I got the gloves, what's up? And everybody
Mm-hmm.
would kind of set up, you know what I mean? We're gonna meet at this person's house or whatever. Yo, my speakers just keep turning on by themselves. What's going on here? Hold on one sec.
Yeah.
Let me just turn them off all the way.
Yeah.
All right. But anyway, so throughout the whole day, everybody's kind of figuring out like who's gonna be the matchups,
Mm-hmm.
who's gonna box when, like what's gonna be the later fight, the earlier fight. Like we making a whole card and everything, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then you would always get like that one dude. I remember one specific time, this one dude, he was just talking crazy, like from before the gloves were brought up. Like he was always talking about like he knew karate, like, he was a fighter, all this stuff. One of them kids that came in from out of town. So like you couldn't verify none of his stories until you seen him in action. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he could tell you all he wants, but you don't really know. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mm.
all right, let's see what's going on.
Mhm.
So, he was talking crazy all day and everything, and then comes to the end of the day, everybody kind of goes home, check in at home, and then we're gonna meet up to start boxing and everything. So we
Mhm.
all meet up, and Buddy wasn't there. You know what I mean? So we're like, yo, like we all said we was gonna meet up at this certain time at this spot. Where is he at? We waited like a tiny bit, but we figured out pretty quickly that he was just like he wasn't ready. You know what I mean? So we actually went like we went to like the road next to his building. It wasn't even like an area that really was like secluded or like off to the side or anything. We were just went to like the main road next to his building,
Mm.
and we went to like go get him, you know what I mean? But he wasn't answering the door, pretending like he wasn't there. We seen him at the window, caught him trying to look out and stuff. And we end up boxing right there, like
Wow.
at his window. You know what I mean? Like we kind of
Yeah.
just stayed right there, like just to kind of see if he would ever come out or whatever. And then the next day, dog, we roasted him because he had to go to school. He wasn't gonna be able to get away with not going to school. So when he came on the bus, yo, what happened yesterday? Oh, nah, I wasn't there. This, and that, all this crazy stuff. It's like, nah, bro,
We
we
saw you
know what
looking through the window,
happened.
boy.
Yeah, we seen him looking and everything, bro. That thing was so funny, bro.
No, there's so many wild stories from the Wentworth days, man. I remember, I remember like I had just moved to Wentworth. I probably was there for like a couple of months, and I was still kind of getting like acquainted with everybody. You know what I'm saying? So like everybody knew who I was, but nobody really knew me yet. And I remember we was coming home, like we were on the bus. We were coming home from school, and Austin was on the bus. And man, I remember some guy came to the neighborhood to fight somebody in the neighborhood. And Austin was like, bet. And dog, I don't know what made him think coming to Wentworth to fight somebody from Wentworth was a good idea. But yeah, let's just say it didn't last long.
That's crazy. And that happened like right when you first moved in.
Yeah, that was like a couple of months after I moved in.
Yo,
And like I was in the mix enough to like know like, oh shit, somebody go down. Let me like go home. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like I
yeah.
was in the mix.
Yo, it's crazy because like you really got blessed that you ended up in Wentworth, dog.
Dog. Too
You
many
just
good
got
memories.
got blessed into the tribe, yo. Yo,
Facts.
Austin, shout out to Austin, man. It's so funny to see Austin nowadays because he just be like grown man giggling and
Yeah.
giving you a handshake, and he's just like so lighthearted. And it's like, bro, like that, like they really call him the knockout king, like,
Dog,
and
swear to God.
people wasn't on that back in the day where they're really just gonna call somebody something like that. You
Right,
know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Nobody wants to give anybody that kind of credit, but it just got to a point where he just knocked out too many people for you not to call him the knockout king.
Facts. Big facts. Dog.
It
I
just
swear.
didn't make sense.
Anytime I ever saw this man Austin throw a punch, bro, like you could see he put
Oh
everything in his
Lord.
spirit into that punch, bro. Like, yo, this man was hilarious, dog. I
Yo,
was
and
like,
his pre-punch routine, like like I had seen him punch enough to know like when he was kind of like easing into it. Cause like he wasn't real, like sometimes he was, but most of the time he was real calm before, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Because
yeah.
Austin was about that action. He wasn't about like, the talking, the back and forth. He'll give you one or two words, but like he was ready.
Mm-hmm.
So like I kind of caught like his rhythm beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, man, shout out to Austin, man. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if he wants that information out there, but that was a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
He's a different guy. He sounded cool in the story, so there's no way that he would be against it.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because like if I was saying that he was the knocked out king, you know,
Yeah.
we might have got a
Right.
copyright strike on this podcast or something. You know what I mean?
No, no, definitely shout out to Austin, man. It's dope to see him come as far as he came. You know what I'm saying? Because like we definitely, it's Wentworth, man. It's you've seen people go down different paths, man. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Because I was talking about this with my wife the other day. Like we came from Puerto Rico to Texas, and then from Texas to Florida. But we weren't in Texas that long, and we always was going back to Puerto Rico. And my family in Puerto Rico was like from the projects, and then we lived in like low income housing, so we were like kind of like well off to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like we were doing better to the point where when we would go back there, it was like a noticeable drop off, but it
Mm-hmm.
was like where we was from. So it's like you're kind of used to it. So when we go from that to Wentworth, it was kind of like coming over here. That vibe was kind of like the vibe of like Puerto Rico, like the vibe of Texas, you know what I mean? But then like in Wentworth, so many people was there from so many different places. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Right.
people was moving into Florida from like New York,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, Louisiana, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
like just different parts of the country. Like a lot of people was coming to Florida at that time because like it was starting to really boom.
Yeah.
So like Wentworth was kind of like a crazy time and like just a crazy thing that can't even be like replicated. Honestly, bro, I don't even remember what you had said to lead me to say this,
Mm-hmm.
but like I was thinking about this the other day, bro. Like Wentworth is crazy because there's no way like that's ever gonna happen again. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even like a type of neighborhood, you know what I mean? Because like if you go there now, it's like a real quiet place. I don't know what type of vibe like the people in there be on, obviously, because I don't be around there. But
Mm-hmm.
they made like some like high end apartments right next
Right
to
now.
it.
Yep. Yep.
So it's a different type of place and a different type of energy, different kind of vibe. And it's just crazy all the crazy stuff that happened in there that we just thought was normal. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and it's not the same at all anymore. Like my line brother actually lived in those high end apartments next to it, and so I've been over there, and it just dog. It looks like it. You would have never imagined like what kind of stuff went down in that neighborhood. You know, 10, 15 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like some of the stuff that happened there, bro, if you didn't have people to validate it for you, nobody will believe it. Like certain stories, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like just certain things that happen there, just you say it out loud and it just sounds so outlandish. And it's like, what are you how did y'all even come together? Like, why is there so many people at that location? Like, there's
Hmm.
so many factors that don't even make sense. And there's so many things that happen that don't even make sense.
Facts.
It's so crazy, like how those like low income neighborhoods and stuff like that, people always got something to say about people that come out of places like that, but they've never been in that situation and really understand what's going on and how different it is like from the regular world, to be honest, because it's a whole different world.
Hmm. Especially like obviously for kids, you know what I'm saying? Especially. And I know you mentioned a lot of like states that people came from, but not even to mention, people coming from PR, DR, you know what I'm
Yo,
saying? And
facts.
and, and
Hey, shout out to Edgar, because
mhm.
even this is how ignorant I was, bro. When Edgar moved into Wentworth, and that's my boy Edgar, he's from DR. And I didn't know like Dominicans, I didn't know anything. I'm Puerto Rican and I just knew Puerto Rico and where I have been. I knew Mexicans from Texas, you know what I mean? So I knew what Mexicans were compared to like Puerto Ricans, but I
Mhm.
didn't know any other like Hispanic races. Like I didn't really know the differences or nothing. Like when Edgar moved into Wentworth, I call him Bogota because I thought he was from Colombia. You know what I'm saying? Like I just gave him that nickname, and he was like, bro, I'm from DR. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh dang, like I didn't even know. You know what I'm saying? Like DR, Colombia, like it's so different now that I look back on it. Like there's
Mhm.
no way you can make that mistake. But I was
Mhm.
just so ignorant back in those times. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, it's crazy times for sure. Shout out to Wentworth, man.
Yeah, man. Wentworth, yo, like I said, man, those are stories for days, bro. One time we was hanging out in the back, and there was a kid, man. All right, so let me tell the story in a different way. So we were hanging out in the back of the neighborhood because that was just kind of like the spot to chill. It was kind of like a dead end cul-de-sac kind of thing. Nobody really went back there unless they was like the type of people that hung out back there. So it was kind of like a perfect spot to just vibe like at night or whatever. So it was actually during the day. We're hanging out in the back, and there's a dude hanging out on the steps, like just chopping it up, talking to like whoever's hanging out around outside the building, like some people that was there. And then like somebody comes and just shoots him on the steps. Like, and he shoots him in the groin area, and dude is like, "Oh my god, he shot my dick! He shot my dick!" And he's like trying to take off his pants. You know what I mean? Because he got shot in the dick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
crazy, crazy thing.
Yeah.
And it was a very low caliber gun, so like he got very lucky, and just even the way everything went down. But come to find out, that person that shot him at the time was a little kid, bro, like a little kid, and he was a drug dealer, and he got his stuff stolen from the dude that was like an adult. So the kid came back, shot him in the dick, and then he just went, like he was so little, like his mind was just so like a little kid, that he just went back to like the park and just kept playing with his friends after.
Yo,
Like they didn't even really have to look for him. He was just outside playing when they went to look for him after.
so wild.
And it
So
was
wild.
crazy, dog. Crazy.
Tell you, man, it was the hooligans.
Yo,
It was worse.
hooligans is an understatement, bro. I think about, man, like I said, bro, that was a crazy time, and just the stuff that went on over there was ridiculous. Like we had to get people to get notes to ride our bus, because they would try to just ride the bus to hang out in the neighborhood, and the bus driver was just like, yo, like y'all can't come here. This is not your bus.
Mm-hmm.
So like people had to get like actual notes like from their parents saying like, oh, my child is sleeping over at this person's house or whatever, to be able to ride the bus. And that used to always kind of be crazy to me too, because I'm like this is not, like we were all broke, you know what I mean? We were just kind of doing stupid stuff to pass the time. So it was like I would find it weird that people would want to even come hang out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh man, you got a house, bro. What are you doing coming over here like to hang out outside?
But you know what it was though. It was, I mean, that was the clout chasing before clout chasing was digital. You know what I'm saying? Like people in Wentworth getting like a reputation, and so people kind of wanted to kind of hang around. You know what I'm saying? That was really all it was.
Yeah, that definitely was like, people definitely wanted to rep that,
Mm-hmm.
as the years went on and in school and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Because it
man,
definitely, by the time, because you're a little bit older than me, by the time you was out of high school and I was like probably a junior or senior or whatever, it was to the point where like Wentworth was like, what I'm saying, it was school wide, like everybody knew what was up.
yeah, we was like the second generation, my wave.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I moved to Wentworth, there was like obviously like, so to give people a backstory, because we haven't even explained anything. We're just saying Wentworth like people know what we're talking about. So we used to live in this neighborhood that was like a low income, like an income restricted apartment complex, that basically you had to be like somebody that worked at like a McDonald's or something like that to qualify to work. I mean, to live in Wentworth. Like you had to, like literally you had to work at like a job like part time, or have somebody like lie and say that you barely make any money to get approved there, or you had to make like a fake pay stub, because it was like very low income restricted. They only let people like that live there. But it was an apartment complex that was brand new in Orlando. Like they had built it, and it was nice, like for the time and for what it was. It was like a really nice apartment complex for like income restricted people. And when I moved there, it was literally the first building, which is like the one of the guys that, shout out to my boy Mike. Mike is like the longest person I know in my life. Like I've known him since I was like in fourth grade.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike lived in the first building. I lived in the second building. And for a while, it was just those two buildings and woods. So the buildings were two sides, three stories, with four apartments in each story, like on each side. So it was, a lot of apartments, and it was a very kind of like tight space. And then they ended up building a lot more buildings. Like it ended up being like 20 buildings. So it was like that apartment complex, and there was just so many people from like different places in there, that it was just a crazy, like, it was just like its own little city. Like we had our own like vibe in there. Like it was just different. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, since we were like the first people that lived there. But when I was born, I mean not when I was born, when I moved there, I was like still young. So I wasn't like that first generation of like the high schoolers, or like, the older people that was hanging out and stuff.
Yeah.
So we were like the second generation, and y'all was like the third generation. And I
Yeah.
think it pretty much died after that, right? Like
From
after
what I
y'all,
know,
it was
yeah.
pretty much like there was no more.
Yeah, from what I know, basically, I think at that point, that's when like gentrification started kind of kicking in, and the whole Wentworth, like everybody was moving out, but nobody really was moving in to kind of keep it.
I know also like that was the time when they started sending the cops into Wentworth a lot.
Facts, yeah,
Because like
yeah.
at first we could just hang out. Like literally we'd be like it's crazy to think about now. Like we would be like 40 deep in the back of the neighborhood outside playing
Mm,
music. People will be smoking, drinking. Like everybody was, you know, in gangs or in fake gangs or whatever, and they were like wearing their bandanas and stuff, and everybody was just hanging out, and you could just do that like every day all the time and nobody would bother you, you know what I'm saying?
mhm,
But as
mhm.
like time went on and they started kind of figuring out what was really going on in the neighborhood and how bad it had really gotten, they started having way more cops in there, and they just kind of like were just telling everybody to get out of the street. Basically, like we would hang out, and if we weren't at the basketball court, they didn't want us outside. They'd be like, yo, y'all got to go inside or go to the basketball court, but you can't just be hanging out in front of the buildings or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, nah. I mean, like for me, I know like, right after Wentworth is when I moved towards like more east, like kind of towards the UCF area, and it kind of basically moved into like another Wentworth. But I was an old head by that time, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like I saw the little jits doing what they was doing, but I wasn't really into that no
Yeah.
more.
One was crazy, man. I was like, speaking of the little jits, like, I remember every time somebody would come like to visit or something, the one of the first things they would tell me is like, yo, what's up with them little kids? They all in the road and stuff. And then you honk the horn or something, and they're like, man, fuck you.
Yeah,
I'm like, bro, it's different in here. Like, those little kids were bad, bro.
facts.
Them kids was bad, dog.
Big facts, man. Yeah, no, definitely. Shout out to Wentworth. Shout out to everybody, that kind of grew up in that era. That was a good time.
Bro, like we need more Wentworth stories. Everybody that's out there from Wentworth, I know y'all got them. Like, we got to figure out a way to get people like to leave like voicemails or like voice notes, write emails. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Because like even like those crazy types of stories, like I love to hear them like from people in other places. You know what I mean? And just in a different way, they're kind of going through the same thing. You know?
Hmm. Yeah, no, facts. And I feel like, I mean, obviously, there's millions of Wentworths out there, you know what I'm saying? So I
Facts.
think that's why it's dope to kind of hear those outlandish stories because, people that's kind of on another side of the country or wherever that's hearing this, they can kind of relate in their own way, kind of like you just said.
Yeah, facts. And man, shout out to Freddie because I met Freddie like around that time. We met in high school. We had a class together, and we was on a football team together also for our senior year. I think like the only
Mm,
time we played.
mm,
And yeah, I met him in high school, and he actually moved out to Atlanta just like you. He's out there, and you
mhm.
linked up with him to shoot some content and no, not even content, and shoot a video for the single you dropped. And how'd that go? Like, what's the song? When is it coming out? What did you guys do? What's the vibe? Like, tell me.
Yeah, for sure, man. So yeah, I linked up with Freddie and we recorded a video for my new song Elevate. It's dropping on February 24th. And I mean that the vibe was really dope, man. Me and Freddie got to really kind of connect last night. Just outside of what's dope about Freddie is that he doesn't just work with everybody. You know what I'm saying? He has to it has to make sense for him, and he the fact that my situation is making sense for him is dope. So shout out to him for that. And then on top of that, man, we just had really good conversation as far as like how I want to roll things out. And kind of just how I want to go about my creative, outlet when it comes to the social media and just how I want to attack everything. So, we really got to dive deep into that. And then on top of that, we did the video at the crib. But when you see it, it doesn't really look like the crib. So it's like there's so many looks at my crib that we can do another video here. We was talking about that
Yeah.
last night.
Yeah, the dope thing about shooting with a dope videographer or director of photography or just somebody that has that eye is
Mhm.
how they transform the scenes and the situations to something that you didn't even see that was there, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's super dope. And that kind of leads into even what we was talking about with Joe last week. And that I just noticed we didn't even mention Joe is not here today. He got some stuff going on, nothing crazy. Same thing like Quincy, is just regular stuff, and he gonna be back next week. He's actually going to be in Orlando pretty soon, and hopefully he'll be able to have some time for the boy. You know what I'm saying? Maybe catch a little vibe ski, but no pressure. But yeah, Joe was talking about just giving 100% in everything you do, and it made me think. I thought about that when you were speaking because what you were saying about Freddie, it's just him recognizing that you are giving that 100% and
Mm,
that you're moving in a direction and you've got a kind of vision that's in line with what he's trying to do and he can grow with you. You know what I mean?
mhm, mhm.
And I feel like that's kind of like a lost art slash something that be holding a lot of people back nowadays that they don't know that they need to be locking in with some people and just kind of like moving forward for the common goal. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's like it's cool. Like and you know, I understand the money aspect, I understand the time aspect, I understand the scheduling aspect, you know what I mean? But there's always an angle of this as a creator, and this is just my opinion, obviously, but as a creator, there's always an angle of it where you got to understand that you got to put some kind of investment or sacrifice to establish and explain to people why your art is worth what you're trying to say your art is worth.
right,
And they're not going to go for that unless you have your, you know, digital resume, which is your social media, the songs that you have up. You know, I'm speaking from an artist perspective as far as a musical artist, but you got to apply that to whatever your craft is. You know, for me, it's I got to make sure I got dope music up, dope videos out, dope content out, ways for people to learn about me, ways for people to know if I'm the type of person they want to follow based off my music, my vibe, the type of stuff that I be on. All that is important. And yeah, it's a lot of work and it takes time to figure it out. And you don't got to figure it out right away, but you got to be actively trying to figure it out. And like Joe said, be giving that 100%.
yeah. And then, also kind of going to your point, a lot of people look for that instant gratification. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, okay, you might be a dope photographer, a dope videographer, or whatever, but at the end of the day, you don't want to continue making $200 a shoot, $300 a shoot because you're only hiring clients but not investing in somebody that's going to help you grow. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can hire people off the street all the time, but if you're not investing in yourself or in people that's going to invest in you, then it's what I'm saying, you're not growing. You're just doing jobs or doing gigs.
Yeah, man, it's a very common thread when you hear successful people in all aspects. You can always kind of hear of somebody that they kind of locked in with
Hmm.
that you know they both knew what was going on, they were both investing in themselves and they figured out a way to move that forward for both of them so everybody could benefit off the situation, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like I said, you got to be able to take that plunge sometimes. And there's a lot of aspects of anything that you know they just it's not an exact science, it's not an exact art, but the one thing that's always constant is the work. You
Hmm.
know, consistent content, consistent work, practice, all that stuff matters. It's not something that anybody in any field takes for granted when they're great at it. You know, it's
Right.
kind of like what we talk about with recording music. It's like you just got to record. As an artist, you got to record. Why? Because you got to be sharpening your skills all the time. You know, even if you're not getting that song out, you're still keeping your muscles strong. You're still keeping your muscles sharp. You know what I mean? If something pops up out of nowhere, hey, got a session for you, you know, you're in shape, you know, because you can get out of shape as an artist as far as not being able to deliver on the mic, you know, not
Hmm.
hitting the inflection or the strongness in your voice that you want to because you're kind of out of breath or you know you're impacted from your you know being rusty.
Hmm.
All that stuff matters, and it matters for anything, you know. It's like I said again, like what Joe said last time, you could always kind of apply every like structure model to all different kinds of fields because that hard work is always going to be there no matter what.
Facts. And then also the consistency. You know what I'm saying? Like that's I think kind of the difficult thing for most people, including myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's something that I'm working on. It's just being more consistent and staying consistent. So, um, yeah, man. I know that you kind of mentioned something earlier about being open, with emotions and vulnerable, like through music. You want to kind of tap into that a little bit more, or kind of?
Yeah, it's something that we've been talking about a lot behind the scenes, just uh, your approach to music and kind of how you're looking at this next phase.
Mhm.
as an artist for you, because as you've said, your music, you could definitely tell like it's from periods in your life, as far as like the content always kind of reflects what you were going through at that time. So you use a lot of that to fuel your music,
Mhm.
which is dope. But as you move forward and as you grow as an artist, finding a way to really, really tap into those emotions in a real, real way, so that people can feel it like when they hear it. And it's just an immediate reaction. They can apply it to how they feel about whatever situation, because it's raw, it's real. And
Mhm.
just, we've been talking a lot about just tapping into that. And that's something that, like I said, it kind of applies to anything. You got to really establish what you're really trying to do, and you got to be willing to try and execute it and do it the way that you want to do it, even if it might feel a little embarrassing, or you might feel like, dang, like how are people going to react to this. I feel like that's a big part of why a lot of people don't even start certain things,
Mhm.
because, and especially music, because they want it to be A1 perfect right off the bat. They
Exactly.
want to drop something that sounds like Drake, and they don't even know that, you don't want to sound like Drake. You want to have your own style, but they haven't even got that far into artistry to understand that. But yet they want their first thing to just be this grand thing that everybody has to just gravitate to right away. And then if people don't mess with it, they're kind of like, oh man, people don't mess with me, or people don't want to support, or they're haters or whatever. And it's like, no, man, you just got to make better stuff.
Mhm.
When it's undeniable, it's undeniable. And that's what it is. You know, anything that you do in life, whether it be you're an artist as far as music, whether you're a skateboarder, whether you're a professional as far as a Wall Street type guy, anything you do in life, you do it to the best of your ability, and you bring something to the table that's undeniable, and people will listen and people will gravitate. One thing that a lot of people look for is consistency too. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people that start different businesses at different parts of the year, and 2 months later, you don't even hear about that business no more. And
Mhm.
you look up, and that person has started 6 businesses within a year, and you don't know which one is still operating. Why? Because there's no consistency. They haven't stuck to one thing enough to even get good at that,
Mhm.
and then they're already moving on to the next thing because that thing didn't move fast enough for them. There's no shortcuts.
No, that's facts. That's big facts. I know for me, I'm definitely trying to, well, not really trying to, because I'm doing it, but changing up how I approach the music, and being more vulnerable. I know one of the things that Freddie asked me last night was, are you looking to go for that indie sound? Are you trying to be more commercial? Blah blah blah. And I remember I used to always have a fear of, well, not really a fear, but more so a commitment to going commercial. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
let's, speak the real shit, but be commercial with it. And I feel like that was always that last wall for me, where it was like
yeah.
I didn't let that wall down, because I was like, this is going past the commercial. You
It
know
was
what
like
I'm
a driving force that wasn't even really in the picture. It was
saying?
just a driving
Exactly.
force that you put in your own mind,
Exactly.
your own roadblock.
And so now, with that being said, and kind of just going through my journey of, this, self rediscovery, I would call it, over the last like year. I think I'm, well, not I think I know I'm more of an indie artist. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, if it becomes a commercial sound, then great. But my content and what I'm talking about is for a specific group. You know what I'm saying?
Facts. And something that you said in there was kind of dope, and it taps in also to the fact of giving 100%. Is one thing about you that I always respected when you took your hiatus from the music, is you didn't waste your own time or anybody else's time pretending like you was taking it serious at that time.
Hmm.
If that makes sense. It was a
Yeah.
little tongue tied how I said it, but you know, when you fell back, you weren't putting any pressure on anybody to, make it feel like, yo, I'm actually doing this. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like you
Hmm.
knew what it was, but at the same time, you was moving that energy somewhere else, and that was very, very fruitful for you. You were able to grow in other areas, and it wasn't that you just stopped making music and then you just had idle hands the whole time. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
that's another thing. It's like, whatever you're passion is or whatever it is that you're trying to make happen, there's no timetable except, whatever you're making of it. You know what I mean? There's no expectations.
Hmm.
You don't have to do it by a certain time. Just do it. And that's what it is. So whenever people are, kind of putting their pressure on themselves on how they have to do things or when they have to do it by, they might feel like, oh, I'm slacking. Nah, if you're giving 100% in other areas, or, if your focus is shifted right now, that's cool.
Hmm.
You know, if you're honest with yourself and you know that this is not a priority for me right now, or if you know it's something that you don't want to get to a certain point with it, or maybe you're saying, hey, let me see how it feels being away from this for a little while. There's always those crossroads that you get to with the things that you do. And sometimes those things change too. But at the same time, you still got to be given that 100% in whatever you are doing,
Facts.
because you wouldn't have been able to slide back into the music so easily if you had just been that whole time, like I said, twiddling your thumbs and then
Right.
just saying, hey, I feel like coming back to the music now. Like, it wouldn't have worked,
At
because
all.
you wouldn't have been equipped in any sense to really jump in with people that are actually, still in the motion of doing it for years. But
Hmm.
the fact that you have that hustle mentality and you're familiar with the work, you're able to get into it and get into that groove a lot easier, and obviously the past experience as well.
Hmm.
But if you're working, you know what work is, and that's it.
Facts.
It's kind of like why people like us always climb up real fast, like when we had jobs when we were younger, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because we're the type of people that we kind of have to get it on our own, and we don't have to have nobody tell me like, oh, this is your path to making more money here. It's like, nah, I see what it is. I know what I have to do. I know what I have to learn, and I'm gonna make it happen. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right. No, that's definitely facts, man. Shoot. I was looking at the other day I was kind of looking at some of these I know this is a quick like turn, but looking at some of these random games that you was talking about. And
Yo, yo, actually, that's perfect to end it on, dog. Because I've been telling a few people around me, but it definitely needs to hit the pie, man. If y'all haven't tapped in with this, first of all, if you're like me and Quincy, we be playing Call of Duty. So, we be gaming. Obviously, our girls don't be gaming, wives, fiancés, whatever, our friend group, we game. And, just like anybody else, our ladies get mad as hell. They act like we do nothing but game for our whole lives. If we're out here for 2 hours one time, it's like, you've played games your whole life. You play the whole day. You know what I mean? It just turns into like 3 days in a row in their mind. But you can kind of alleviate that a little, and bring a little togetherness here and there. If you want to, scratch the gaming itch with a game called Little Nightmares, which is on like all platforms. Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, everywhere. It's like it's very easy to control, very easy to navigate. The character doesn't do too many things as far as like having to learn a lot of buttons. But it's basically like a scary little game where you're in a nightmare, and you got to kind of figure out how to get yourself out of the situation you're in. So you do random little things with the functions that you have. You got to kind of play the shadows. You got to kind of see how, you see the patterns. It's like a puzzle kind of game. You know what I mean? But it's super dope and it's scary. You know what I mean? Because like you're in a nightmare, and you're playing like a character trying to kind of get out of the nightmare. So, you turn off all the lights, you put the game on, and it's not two player. I think the second one is two player. I'm not sure. I just downloaded the second one, so I might have a little more insight on that one very soon. But the first one is one player, but what we would do is just take turns. Like when somebody would die, pass the remote, and then we kind of knew what to do next. And you have fun watching it because it's like crazy.
Hmm.
That game is dope. And another one that's a little bit harder, but it's just as dope, and it will test your relationship, is Cuphead. If you play Cuphead, it's like a game where it's mad simple. You're just a guy running across the screen shooting, but the game gets hard, and it's not impossible. It's just really learning the patterns. Again, it's like, just kind of learning the puzzles and the patterns and stuff. But that game is like you got to graduate there from Little Nightmares. So
Mm.
if you're taking these recommendations, start with Little Nightmares because if you start with Cuphead, you're getting divorced.
Cuphead's no joke. I played Cuphead before. That junk is no joke
Yeah,
for
Cuphead is
sure.
crazy. But once again, no Joe this week. We're gonna have a couple little random lineups in the next couple weeks just because traveling and real life gets in the way and stuff. But the show will still be out consistently. We
Hmm.
still gonna be putting out episodes for y'all. Everything's been going up. We super appreciate it. We've been kind of establishing the social medias, and we're trying to get some organic growth going at first, and then we're gonna take this thing up a notch. The listenership right now is really dope. We have a nice little base of people, but we need more interaction, man. We need
Mm,
y'all to hit us up. We need emails. We're gonna start giving away merch and just random things. So hit us in an email just for random things for us to talk about. Even if you got a random funny story, if you got a question, if you got a topic, contact us in any way so we can get more interaction with y'all and know who's really tapping in so we can just tap into more people that are gonna like the show.
for sure, for sure, and definitely want to hear y'all stories because if it's something that we could tap into, man, I'm all for that.
Facts. And one of the last things I'm gonna say is Wentworth,
Stay grounded.
stay butter.